right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If anybody does tune in live, we're really just recording this for our YouTube channel and viewers. But if anybody tunes in live, great to see you. We've had a lot of questions from our athletes this year, and people wondering, what do you mean by your program prestige chart and what does that all mean? And we've been a little slow to get that out this year. And welcome to the War Room, by the way, our War Room where we do a lot of film study. You can see the Sunshine Tournament in Florida going on right now. Kairos, the local club, the 15s, just about to take set two. Send it. Nope. Sweep right there. So yeah, so we just do a lot of watching film and breaking down film. It's our, back to our college football days, but it's our little place to watch film weekends that we're not on the road, and got a TV on the fritz, but we got a couple TVs set up here, etc. So yeah, this is where we break down and do a lot of our film. We got our big boards set up, and you'll see in a little bit. There's the start of our player big board, and you will see our other big board here in just a little bit as we go to it. We got another camera set up. Sorry for the rough look. It's been a rough weekend, but anyway, so we've had a lot of athletes ask, what is meant by your prestige level with the colleges? And we've been meaning to get to this a couple weeks ago, and we just haven't. So we thought we'd start a series on our program prestige. And so if you follow along, we talk about not doing rankings like the other sites, and we talk about giving athletes a PPV score. So the PPV score shows them their approximate college value, or an approximation of their college projection as a potential college recruit. And that is supposed to coordinate with a to give them an idea how to narrow down a list to start doing research and homework, and narrow down 350 college programs into maybe a tighter bubble to do some homework, and not make it so overwhelming, to give them an idea of maybe colleges that may be in their range recruiting wise. And also, if you're a college recruiting fan, gives you an idea of what lane your favorite schools might be in and where they recruit at. And I use the analogy of myself forever, up until a few years ago, being a University of Minnesota football fan for many, many, many years. And we were a 3-star program if you use the star system. And me getting my hopes up every year when I subscribed to Rivals for 25 years in a row, and in December, January, being so excited that we had the potential for this 5-star linebacker. And then every February, when it came to signing day, we never signed that 5-star linebacker. Well, we were a 3-star program, and that 5-star linebacker always went to Ohio State or Michigan, a 5-star program. Okay? We recruited at a 2 and a 3-star level. Those were the athletes that we recruited. Okay? That's how colleges recruit for the most part. Now, there might be a relative, there might be a legacy kid, but for the most part, Minnesota football was a 3-star and is a 3-star program. Okay, things will help you move up and down, but you are what you traditionally are. That's your prestige level. Coaches might not want to admit that or talk about that, but you are what you recruit to. And so that's how we break down recruiting. Now, I want to bring in the War Room Cam. If we get a sponsor for this someday, that'd be awesome. But for right now, this is what we call the War Room Cam. And this is what we're going to start filling in and talking about. And so when I go over to this, right, when we talk about this and the War Room Cam, and you can see me or my hand, we talk about every year the two blue buds, if you will, Nebraska and Texas, sorry, Jackson, right? And so Nebraska and Texas every year are, in essence, right here. Now, our diamond level recruits, yes, but their average classes are right on the gold level, okay? So Nebraska and Texas are here on the average, okay? When their classes average out, they are right on the level, meaning those programs, okay, are in essence picking who they want. Now, I've caught some heat for that over the years, but what I've said is until somebody beats them out for a recruit other than each other, they are the cream of the crop. Okay, so Nebraska and Texas are at the top, and then we start from there, right? And then we'll work down from there. And so that's how we figure program prestige is with Nebraska and Texas, and they're basically even. I'm excited about this year because I think there will be a couple head-to-head battles, but they're basically even, and they ironically don't go head-to-head for recruits a lot. But I think we're going to see that this year a couple of times. And as a recruiting guy, I'm excited for that. And I hope they don't back out from each other. I hope they stay head to head all the way through June. And they duke it out a little bit because they don't do that traditionally a ton. We'll get into that later in some live conversations later on. But so that's where we start, and we work it out, work our way down from there. And I hate to use the term down, but prestige wise, it is down. They are the top of the prestige chart, and they get who they want. I don't know a better way to say it. So again, referring to college football days and being a Gopher football fan for 30 basically miserable years, we didn't beat Ohio State for a linebacker. We just didn't. Even in the NIL days, we don't beat them. So that's how it is if you're a Northwestern volleyball fan. Nebraska wants that recruit, they get them. Okay? So coaches get upset, but it's the truth. So just explain recruiting to you. So what we've done is we break down recruiting based on program prestige. All right. And so for a second, Bruins, UCLA. All right, so Bruin Nation and these guys, Bruin Nation here. These guys are interesting on a few levels. They're interesting to me. One, what are their momentum changers possibly this year? Well, first of all, brand new head coach. Okay. And the word on the street when you just ask athletes about UCLA or parents about UCLA or other coaches about UCLA, okay? They got the rap for going all in on transfers. If you win, that's great. If you don't win, not great. So, first thing, they need to get the message out. Are you going with your high school recruits, or are you going to continue to go with transfers? Right? And talking with staff, they're going with high school recruits. You have to prove that now. Okay, so set a bad precedence with going with a bunch of transfers, and it didn't work. Right? So the new staff has to get that message out that we're going to go with high school recruits. Also, right, you're in a very talent-rich state. Both them and the Trojans would do well to sign a top recruit from California. UCLA did a great job last year, right? Getting the number 2 prospect in California. That's kind of a national rap, is getting a California school to lock up the top prospect in California. Okay, so those are momentum changers that could help UCLA. Now, we go through and we look. Here's their class overall PPV scores from the last 2 years. 2026, a 203. Okay, again, we'll flash back. 203 was the red. All right, and then we have 237, great class. Again, who is that spurred on by? Number 2 player in the state. All right, so 237, national rank. You can see it, top 10 class last year. Conference rank, they're in that Big Ten. Right, number 5 class in the Big Ten, which is always going to be tough. Right, when you get in the top 3 in the Big Ten, you're a top 5 class in the country. Okay, so their 2-year average, 2-year average for the Bruins is a 220. Right, so 2-year average for UCLA is a 220. All right, so let's go to the big board. 2-year average for the UCLA is a 220. So that's going to put UCLA, let's see, can we see him here? Get it up here. Okay. We put them right about there. All right. So UCLA first up. Up there. Who's next? All right. Now, another team, an interesting team. Okay, and a team we talk about has had a lot of conversation. Okay, Tennessee, SEC. I'm gonna get this changed, but the momentum for these guys, and I apologize for not switching that, but why is there so much turnover? Okay, why is there so much turnover with these guys? Why is there so much turnover with this team, both with recruits, transfers coming in, and they haven't had a lot of success? Now, this was a team going into the 27 class I picked to have a blow up year. And they've had a lot of high evaluated recruits that have come to camp. And they've been on the verge. They have regular season, consistent success. Looks like they're going to have tournament success. Recruiting wise, Just hasn't happened. So you see their numbers, um, 55th in the country, 26th, 28th in the country now. And that's because of Ava Jeffries, and all because of her. Um, that completely saved their class, who's a 192. And so Tennessee is just interesting. They're 161 for their class average. Without Ava Jeffries, they're at, I think it was something like 140. And that was late, and that was surprising to everybody. So she's there. Congratulations. That was huge for them. Um, and so we'll see how it goes. So just an interesting program right now, and with what they do. So, um, yeah, I don't know. They're a head scratcher with what they have going on, but I don't know. Momentum, it's hard to tell, but they got their one player they needed. We'll see what happens with their new portal, but they've had a lot of turnover both ways. And I don't know. We'll see what happens in Tennessee, but not close to the program. Obviously, don't know what happened to a couple of the kids that transferred out, and you like to give the program the benefit of the doubt, and they've been in that upper third, obviously, of the SEC. So we'll wait and see. But one big time 27 recruit has kind of saved that from being a basically a 50th ranked recruiting program, but they have had results. So we'll take the Vols, and 161 puts them at an orange. Well, there you go. Orange level. Orange level for the orange. So, gonna be about right there for Tennessee. All right. Moving on. Baylor. Okay. I like this program, is interesting to me as well. Baylor Bears. Okay. Next team up, Baylor Bears. And they've been consistent. 199 last year, 185 in 26, but they had a big 26 class, and they had two of my favorite recruits. One who I think could be a second-year All-American on the right side, and so they've landed big recruits, and I joke they must serve the best camp food of anybody in the country, because everybody in Texas goes to Baylor Select Camp. So they're getting kids on campus. They're getting a lot of kids on campus. Everybody in Texas goes there. They're having one of the top classes in the Big Ten every year, top 20 class. Part of the reason is they're signing larger classes, which is harder on average. Okay, the bigger the class, the harder it is to stay on average, because if you have one lower evaluated athlete, it takes down your average. Okay, it does hurt you to sign a bigger class, but they have a top rated athlete every single year. Consistently solid classes. They're 192. I like their classes every single year. If this is a basketball team that needs to bring in 3 and 4 kids every year, and if this is a pre-portal program, Baylor maybe does the best job of anybody in the top 20 year to year. So they do a great job of building a program before the portal. And so I really like what Baylor does class to class. But with the portal, when you can just go out and grab whoever you need, we don't need to recruit like we used to. Um, and so their recruiting way maybe isn't as effective as it used to be. But Elite Orange, and right at the very top of the Elite Orange range. And so they do a great job, and they've landed what I think is a superstar in each of the last two classes. And so Baylor ends up right at the very top of the Elite Orange, group. All right, this crew, these guys, TCU, I don't know, this, if we really had like a sleeper program, and this is the first team where evaluation system, I gotta say, no way. This is my pick. This is my pick for sleeper Elite Eight in a year that all of the blue bloods have loaded up for the most dominant year of college volleyball. This is the team that will make a run. This is the program that could be the next X, like Louisville and Pitt were back in the day before they became Louisville and Pitt. I love what TCU is doing. They are hot in recruiting, and they are hot in what they're doing in the portal. Um, Now, we don't know what everybody's budget is because we don't talk money in volleyball yet, but I love what TCU is doing and who they are picking up. Obviously, they know what their budget is, but man, it seems like they are picking up the right athletes. Um, Now, look at that jump. Look at that jump from 26 to 27. Okay, look at that jump in the conference, and we readjusted a couple athletes' scores, and they just overtook Kansas for first, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. They just overtook Kansas in for first in the Big 12 standings. Another thing that's different about us, by the way, with the other sites, is our conference rankings, our recruiting class rankings adjust almost daily. One athlete's PPV changes, it changes literally the entire recruiting class standings. So you got to be checking our stuff daily, not once every 3 months. We don't need to make a big parade, celebration, announcement. Our stuff changes as literally any recruit in the class, their PPV changes. So as was the result with TCU, it moved them up to the front page, I believe, and it moved them to first in the Big 12 yesterday. So first in the Big 12, 13th nationally, 244. So momentum changers for them. They are trending hot. Jason, I don't know him well, but whatever he's doing well. I know they lost Keith Smith, moved on to Utah State head coach. He was doing an amazing job, but that's got to be a staff deal there. Get on, take whatever your Bitcoin's not worth anymore and invest it in TCU. They are rocking right now in recruiting if you really follow it. So here's my first veto, if you will. They're at 194. Yeah, they're at 194 for their 2 year average, and that's just not right. At 244 would put them solidly in the silver level. Now we can't quite move them up. Let's see. So it says they're supposed to be here, or excuse me, it says they're supposed to be here. 244 this year would put them about here. We're going to compromise, and I think TCU has to be, geez, that's probably too low, but we'll put them, yeah, we'll put them here. I'm going to override it and put them there, even though I think when you, yeah, I think when you factor in what they're doing in the portal, they're in this silver range. So I'm going to give myself the ability, I'm going to give myself the ability to move TCU back up to silver because they're as hot as anybody right now, I think, in volleyball and what they're doing. So, okay, next, moving on, ACC, Clemson, two more. Oh, just going to grab both. Clemson, Tiger Nation. Clemson Tigers, and I like this, another one. We just put a mini little X there. I like this, and we need more of this in college volleyball. Clemson. We need more programs like this, and I'm not going to go off on my whole tangent about TV ratings and the whole propaganda there, but I want to know how Clemson's TV viewership has increased because the staff is working hard. And look at this. That's what I'm talking about. 2026, 133, the 213 average. They crushed this or are crushing this recruiting class. Okay, they are crushing this recruiting class this year. The staff is working their butt off. And like I just was messaging with Kaylin Husendorf today of A5. That is a great recruit for Clemson. Hey, that's a great recruit for this staff. That's the athlete. We talk about adding athletes that can come in and compete at the ACC level. That's a great job by the staff. And you don't improve overnight. They need to get kids like that in. Now, they need to mix in one or two portal kids, but it's coaches will tell you, programs like that I'm guessing are not funded appropriately. Okay? They're not funded like Louisville. They're not funded like Stanford. They're not funded like Pitt. I'm just guessing. You can't go and just make up that difference in a day. You got to have transfer money, right? You can't just expect these classes that are 2 and 3 years away to come and win right now. So they got to be able to bring in a transfer or two to bridge the gap. But this will get it done. Classes like this will bridge the gap for these programs. And what bothers me about the whole TV ratings, I don't need to know that people watch Nebraska play volleyball. I get that. I'm smart enough to understand that people watch Wisconsin play Nebraska on TV. Not a newsflash, ESPN. I want to know who watches Clemson. Is their viewership going up? How do we help this program become better? How do we boost volleyball at Clemson? Because this is the program we need to get better to challenge Louisville. How do we make them better? How do we make Florida State better? How do we get it to catch on there? Because you make 8 or 9 teams passionate about volleyball in the ACC, now you have something, just like basketball. Otherwise, you're going to have like a 4-team ACC league forever. And that's not good for anybody. So what, Louisville and Stanford and Pitt are going to play every year? Whoopee. That doesn't make the sport better. Go ahead. I know. Send your email, DM me, right? But you need Clemson volleyball and this staff, that is a great year, right? But if you just send these four freshmen to the Wolves, that's not going to last. Okay, that is a great jump in this class, right? That's 16th in the country. These guys should be given pay raises and they should be given money to bring in some transfers with them. Okay, fifth in the conference. Fifth in the conference by the best recruiting site in America. Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back. The best recruiting site in America ranked them the fifth best recruiting class in the ACC. All right? So it did. It felt like energy program wide. Their recruits were tweeting it out, their staff, right? You got to build on that. I will refer back again. Louisville and Pitt did not become Louisville and Pitt in 1 year. It takes class after class. And it actually was easier for them 10 years ago because you didn't have this transfer portal thing, right? So they are ready to be a consistent red level program. Come on, right? 172, okay, is what we give them for an average, but they were recruiting this year at a high 200s. And you can win there. You can be an NCAA tournament team there. You can win an NCAA tournament game there, and that makes the whole conference stronger, right? So I love that. 213, 214 wins you a game in the NCAA tournament every year, right? So 173 says Elite Red, but I'm going higher with that. I'm giving them a little bit higher because 173 would be right here. And I think they're higher. I'm going a little bit more like a 185 because I think they have more momentum. All right? So you guys keep it up. Clemson, not a fan of your football. Just am not, sorry. But I do love what he does for kids with Down syndrome. I love that about him. Volleyball, I'm all on board. You guys keep it up. I'm pulling for you. All right, Rock Chalk, my guy. I love Coach there, but we're going to talk about this. Momentum changers. I just go back and forth. I'm not quite sure. I'm just not sure because Coach was hired. I was like Grand Slam, all in. This is the team, Elite Eight, let's go. And then he had that huge class coming in, which he brought quite a few of them. Okay, quite a few of them. They ended up 13th. Had to bring in some foreign transfers to plug some holes. Okay, right? And then it was 27 class. It's okay. 14th nationally, second in the conference. And just, they're okay. Right? Now, a couple staff changes, but I just don't know what to give grade 1. And he lost the recruiting coordinator, brought another one in. I don't know. I was expecting like a boom, like a big time sign or something, like the big All-American outside hitter or something, or a big middle. And I know they're in on a few, but just didn't quite get one. And he's going to, and his culture he'll build, but you know, everything I heard about, you know, Kansas being all in now, and you know, the money being there, and I just I don't know. And then transfer wise, I thought there would just be something. And, they lost their big foreign freshman. I just was expecting more. And I know it's absolutely not coach's fault because he's as classy a guy as there is. But and Minnesota goes and takes the recruiting coordinator and, for more money. And all these things that I just don't know. Like I'm just expecting more where I wonder where this momentum is. I don't know how to feel. Like it's great here, but I thought he would continue all his momentum from Oregon that they had and was like taking that plus like all in money at Kansas. Now he's getting this crew finally on campus. So I'm just up in the air. Their average 216. That's elite red, but I had them silver. I had bumped them all the way up to silver with momentum last year. So I just don't know what I think with the Jayhawks, and so the jury's out, and it's a big year. Now I do always know that I think his culture will always win out, and that's a huge thing. I know he's in Kansas City, so he's right centrally located. That should be a good thing, but it's like the Big 12 is getting stronger. We just talked about TCU. I think Kansas State is doing really solid things. So, yeah, maybe it's not as much of a cakewalk as I thought, and I'm sure Matt didn't think that, but maybe it's harder than I thought, which of course I've been wrong multiple times. So, I don't know. We go back and let's look at that again with them up there, and let's get them back on here again. Yeah, so this is the one I put it on here last for a reason because I knew I'd have to ponder this. So 216, which just puts it, but hell, I don't know because. So if you do it right, that puts them right there, and I can't. I mean, good faith, I put them. I do not believe. I mean, I just, prestige wise, I can't. I mean, last year I had them here. Sorry, guys, fast forward through this part if you want to, but that's an elite program. They got to be higher than. I mean, this is nothing against UCLA, but you had a new coach. You haven't done anything in the tournament. I understand it's a Big Ten, but I mean, there cannot be this big of a gap between you and TCU. All right, I'm going to think on it. I'm going to think on this. I'm going to come back for part 2 on Kansas. I'm going to leave them here because that is consistent, but they've got to be higher. Now, that's an average. That's an average, of course. I'm going to come back, but I think they have got to move they've got to move more there. I'm gonna think about it and come back. So as we go only to the uh, first on this as we go through. Welcome to the war room, but this is what we stop and think about when we evaluate. When we're evaluating athletes, when we're looking at them, we try looking at fits. It's be long, fast forward through it, but we'll have another group of teams. And when we start looking at fits in June, these are some of the things we talk about. So, anyways, boring nerd recruiting stuff, and hopefully you got a little bit out of it for your team or possible schools. So we'll see you later.